Right, FaZe are the PGL Antwerp major champions. The 17th major, and it is won by Karrigan, Twists, Robs, Rain, and Brokey. This is the second final for the organisation. They obviously lost the infamous Boston major final in 2018 to Cloud9 in incredibly close fashion. They were one round from winning the tournament a number of times. This is the first major title for all of those names, for Karrigan, Twists, Robs, Brokey, Rain. Did it better that time. By the way, I think it's the most special for Karrigan and Rain, considering they're veterans, where they are in their careers, that they were in that Boston major final. If you are people like Twists and Robs, it's cool because you're a young guy and you're trying to make a name for yourself. You're trying to put yourself even in the category of the Nikos, as simple as the Zeus if you can. And if you're Brokey, look, you're so new to the scene. Like, you're not kind of expected to be. It's just cool. Like, that's just cool. You're a team player, but it's cool. For me, you are like a Cajun B of that team. You're not a star player, but you're a solid player in the cadre of stars who do it by committee. Now, they only dropped one map in the playoffs, but had many close games, OTs, and the series in general were close. In fact, the final, arguably, was the least close of all three of the playoff series they played. They basically nearly lost to NIP, and it was obviously an amazing game against Spirit, right? Entering the tournament, they had won the two big lands of the year. They'd won IM Katowice, but they had the weird scenario in the playoffs, where at one point in the tournament, they'd had to have Rops come out, and then JKS stood in for him, which was at least sort of a one-for-one, sort of. Then they had to have Rain come out, like in the final, and came JKS, which is a ridiculous one, but somehow it was working, sort of, even though they had shifted roles around. And obviously the whole thing is, to be fair, there was also the whole thing, conflict in Ukraine going on, so that meant that some of the CIS teams weren't as strong. So okay, that was a bit up there. It looked like a miracle, like a one-off, like one and done type. Then they got Rain back, and they won ASL Pro League after, admittedly, a dodgy group stage start where they almost went out, and they had to beat Vitality, and then Vitality had a 2-0 outsiders, but it happened. They got through the playoffs, and then they won again, beating the top teams, looking amazing, close games, different people performing, even different people getting MVPs. So they did come into this major as the number one team in the world. They came into this major as the number one favourite, but they were not a monster favourite compared to some teams in the past. They weren't a lock, and they did not actually early on have the same feeling of destiny that for me they got to in the playoffs here. In the playoffs here, they really did play like a team, where it was like the fates had just decided they win, and unless they totally fuck it up, they just have to follow that path, and things will just happen, kills will just happen, opponents will do things, they'll get the right maps, and it's just meant to happen. You could see it in their eyes, in Karrigan's eyes, in Rain, the way he played in that final. They just somehow knew they were supposed to win. It's almost like they didn't know how they could lose. It was so crazy when you consider some of these players' careers. I mean, obviously Twists was over on the fucking Team Liquid squad that was doing some choking, didn't win the major. You had Karrigan and Rain who've been in this situation before, didn't have the era, etc., blah blah blah. Now, I think the interesting thing for me is this. They were good, but not exceptional in the Swiss. They were just a good team. They weren't bad. They just did a good job, but they weren't like going to blow everyone away and definitely going to win the tournament. You got to the NIP series, and I have to say, I told you this could be an upset for NIP, especially because the odds were on the side of FaZe. So they could easily have lost that third game. It was starting to get away from them, but of course, look what map it is. It's the map they're the best on, right? Then again, they could have won in 2 also. They could also have 2-0'd. The third map, though, is what FaZe Clan is all about. It's about comebacks. It's about clutch play. It's about decisive play. It's about the odd individual burst of aim and skill, but combined together, and that's how you win. You play with each other. The cohesion is very strong in this team. Then they played Team Spirit in the semis. Big underdog, no experience, but man, did those guys come to play and did have firepower, at least until late in the games. So I thought they got really pushed, but they came through in the clutch. They came through with the big games. They came through in the OTs. A theme that is emerging and kept going throughout this major. They showed insane resilience at times, even after letting certain leads go. Then we get to the final against Na'Vi, of course. The reigning major champions, the big betting favourites, by the way, especially because of how they manhandled Ents, especially because Simple and Bit were the number 1 and 2 ranked players in the tournament. The fragging for the team was the highest. Everyone was just looking and going, these guys are going to win the major. These guys, I wasn't, but I saw a lot of that sentiment and people starting to count like another major for Simple, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, Simple himself, by the way, was unbelievable in the semis, and so people expected there's just going to be too much firepower here. He was the number 1 rated player going into the final. Now, FaZe beat Na'Vi for the 3rd LAN series this year and the 4th series overall. They haven't lost to Na'Vi. They 2-0'd them in 2 of those 3 LAN series, including this major final. And beating that team was huge because that was the team going for a major. So initially, you're just denying them their era, rather. You're just denying them then era. Now, tell you what, now you were building into potentially your own era in the future. So that was huge. That's like an all-time great team. That's going to be considered like a top 5 team to ever play. And you're beating them. Yes, there was some context around it, but you can only beat who's put in front of you. You can't go and solve a crisis like that and then play the real Na'Vi, can you? You just had to play who you were, and they certainly were still a very good team. And by the way, they could have been 3 maps. They themselves could have potentially 2-0'd that series in a different day with a different veto, I think. You look at the way FaZe played in that final, they would not die. The old FaZe, the old Karrigan teams years ago, they'd have lost when Na'Vi got them tight at the end of Inferno. On Nuke, they'd have just been in a scenario where they'd have like given away a few extra rounds. They'd have pushed silly and it gotten really close. Yeah, you could have seen that. Not this one. This is a different team. This is a different Karrigan. This is not the FaZe of your daddy-o. Now, the players in this team, what a great job. This is a rare example, I think, where every player did a really good job. And sometimes, even above and beyond. So I'll start with the main man, the MVP, and the real most valuable player of this tournament. And he's the guy, in theory, who's supposed to be the supportive element, who's the entry sometimes. It's Rain. Unreal impact. Go look at the stat on HLTV. He's broken that meter, boys. He's playing some hard spots. He's playing some bad positions. He's not getting all the resources. He's the top-rated player for the tournament after the tournament ended. The tournament had Simple and Bit doing great things. Had Zimu, had fucking hell, boys. Spinks, Stown, doesn't matter. A guy from Norway who used to be one of the great players back in 2015, 2017. Somehow he's doing it in 2022 at age 27. That's just impossible to me. Man alive. You have to just tip your hat to him. What a performance. What an incredible way to have it. And the impact he had in these actual games, like the final, that Nuke game was a work of art. Get that demo if you ever play outside or against an outside player and study that fucking thing, just like you did Electronic at the last major against G2. Because the way those guys with a rifle control that outside by themselves is a fucking work of art. It's unreal. And also, the cool thing, obviously, for this guy is he's the legacy player. Since they formed this team way back in the day when they were Kingwin, and then G2, and then FaZe, he's the only one that was there the whole time. And at the time, if you don't know, he wasn't considered a superstar player. He was just like, hey, he's the best player from Norway. He's got skills. And we were like, oh, see if he could do something. He was supposed to join, like, there's times where he was supposed to play with the NIP players. They were supposed to join Fnatic at one point in time. Man alive, this guy's stuck around, and he gets his major at the end. What an incredible narrative. What a crazy, crazy story. Remember, he was one round from making the major final inclusion of poker with G2. Then, obviously, he was one round from winning the final with Boston Major, right? With FaZe. So then how about this? Here's a fun one. I have a tweet, which now has gone, as they say, has aged poorly, like milk. So here's the good one right now. I did this tweet on the 27th of February at 5:57 p.m. and I said, sign JKS to FaZe and replace Rain entirely. Now, the reason is, I will say, I looked up this time here, 5:57 p.m. I looked up, in theory, at 5 o'clock my time was when the final actually began of the Katowice final between FaZe and G2. And this is only going to be in map 1 at that point in time. Now, from what I remember of map 1, there's like a couple of massive CT holds by JKS. He was looking really nice on the silenced M4 AOS, obviously. Like, he was looking really good generally. At the time, Rain wasn't in the super duper form the previous year. He was an up and down streaky player. Obviously, no one knew what the roles were going to be when they changed everything up. No one could really have known that they'd win all the tournaments after this and the major. And by the way, nobody knew he'd be the MVP of the major and do that. Nobody did, of course not. Don't be silly. And by the way, I'll also throw this in as well. We can't even know what would happen with JKS. Now, sure, because they won everything. Yeah, I'm going to get on and say they don't win the major and everything with JKS. But, you know, they'd have had a chance to. It was an interesting dynamic. And the whole point wasn't a 1-for-1. It was like you swap a few roles around like they did. Maybe on certain maps you take turns. Like on one map, maybe Rops is the lurker. Maybe on another one, JKS, that we can make the map pool bigger. That was kind of my idea for it. And also, spoiler, it was a hot take. It was during the game, wasn't it? It was just a fucking tweet it out there, cheeky little hot take. Now, in the past, I might have bemoaned it and gone, can't I have a hot take? Am I the only one who isn't? No, you know what? I am. I am the only one who can't. You know why, guys? Because you've paid me that compliment that I am the one who has to always be right. I am the godhead who just knows everything about CS and CS history, and every opinion I have is so important. It must be scrutinised, must have a spotlight shone on it. You got to take my hot takes, throwaway lines, take them and fucking frame them and send me them on Twitter every time I say something, and tell people on fucking Reddit and make threads and make HLTV threads and make movies with Rain's own in. That's my tweet. It's like a lol or Thorin or like, oh, fucking crying trollfish, ha ha ha, Rain Hadjou, bro. Maybe have him like eating me as that fucking cigarette. There we go, Super Sip. I did a whole movie for you there, mate, except the difference is I don't have to put the same 4 clips in that you use every single time, and then just like awkwardly just put some weird fucking non-swag that you think is swag in there. I don't know, mate. Here's the thing, if I wanted to be a frog, wouldn't be in fucking videos, would it, mate? Ribbit. But yeah, if you're feeling froggy, leap over, son. Okay, so here's the cool thing for me. I've got a new vision as to how I'm going to use Twitter. So don't worry about it, boys. I'm going to moron surf. I'm going to ride morons to, well, We'll see. We'll see what we'll put it this way. I've got some good ideas and this is beautiful. Because as you see on Twitter there, look, I'll give it up to Rain. He's just fucking owned me, and he's the MVP of the major. So for the rest of this week, coming up week, I'll leave owned by Rain, MVP is my Twitter name, in honour of Rain, as a fucking tribute to that excellent performance. And winning, by the way, my boy Karrigan a major. So yeah, great job, mate. Sick. Then how about this angle? I have got loads more hot takes coming for the rest of my career. Don't even worry about that. I've got lots more fun coming. And I just want to say a quick shout out to some of the pros this week who gave me a little bit of inspiration. I won't forget about you. I'll make sure I shout you out in a video or two. It's going to be fucking great, mate. Yeah, that's where we're going. Now, if we're talking about players in this team, of course, after Rain, who deserves his top billing, I've got to go with my boy Karrigan, haven't I? This guy is an IGL god. He should just be called like International God Leader. That's what IGL should stand for Karrigan, by the way. He is 32 years old. His first chance, like team that could have won a major, was made in the semis of the majors, quarters rather, was 7 years ago. 7. That's impossible. Let me know who else was competing in that way, by the way. The only one, if you kept covering CS as 1.6 as well, would actually be Zeus. He's the only real one who fits that bill. You're going to go, what about Fall? You don't know who Fowler was in 1.6. Why are you, someone who didn't watch the game, telling me who that guy was? Wasn't even the in-game leader, you moron. But okay. Oh, by the way, don't worry, lots of fun coming with that topic. Yeah, if you thought it was just on Twitter, here's the thing, on Twitter, I'm just in text, and I might seem obnoxious, right? I'm fucking funny in videos. I'm witty, I come up with stuff, and I'll entertain. So I tell you what, I'm taking that into my medium. We're going to have all sorts of fun with that, boys. So the crazy thing about this win, it's the first one of a truly international roster. Now, it's not a roster where everyone speaks the second language English, because obviously Twist is Canadian, speaks English. You could make a joke like, yeah, it's not proper English. Yeah, you know the joke. It's his fucking first language at the end of the day. But it is the truly international roster, and Karrigan's the only one to ever do it with that. So in my opinion, this is the greatest major ever won, the most hardest major ever won, the most impressive feat of winning a major overall for all the contexts considered. So you know what, that whole GO IGL convo, it was already existed. It's just you had to make a case for everything but majors for Karrigan. Now he's got a major, and personally, this major, I'm not going to go ridiculous and say it's worth 2 majors. It's really hard to win majors. I'm saying it's worth 2 is too much. I would say like 1.5 majors for this one. Listen, if anyone else wants 1.5, go fucking put a team like this together, go win one. Stop fucking around with your company then. Or you can just win loads of your countrymen and we can just count it like that, right? Fair's fair. Now, remember as well, by the way, he was 1 round from this being 2.5 majors by that. No, that doesn't make sense. It would be 3 majors by that logic, yeah? Fucking hell, 3 majors, imagine that. Then again, this major wouldn't exist without that one, would it? He had to sort of go through that to get to this one. So the cool thing for me with Karrigan and FaZe is he might be able to start an era of his own now and just run up the trophies and get another major even. He's not done now. This isn't it. This isn't the end of the story. This is the second chapter of his career, and he hopes it's like the Astralis one. He should become one of the greatest winners of all time. Remember, he had the failed era before with the superstar players. He has lesser players now, and he won in more impressive fashion. I think it changed him, that Boston major. I think what he went through, get kicked out the team, going to a mouse, coming back, even the bad phase, I think it taught this guy something about how he calls, how he trusts people, how he empowers them, how he gets them to buy in, how he doesn't just go for the biggest name, he goes for the name that wants to work with him and has a reason to want to work with him. I think it's so sick. And you know what? This just shows something that fans don't get, which is when you're the team that always chokes. Are you ready? You don't know this. Luminosity Gaming used to choke and always come second and third. They couldn't beat Na'Vi and Fnatic. Then they could sort of beat Na'Vi, but who knows what was going on. Then they couldn't win the tournament. But when it flipped, they won 2 majors. What about when you go over to the guys from, I would say, how about the classic old team of his? Like obviously, when they were TSM and that year, they used to fail. But then people forget the Glaive lineup won the 1 major. And then they bombed a little bit. Maybe we should have won Krakow. When it flips, though, you people like Device just win everything. They win 4 majors, 9 major semi-finals. Like, this is unreal. Like, you don't just flip it and go, I won once. Haha, I can retire. That happens occasionally. Sometimes, though, the greatest winner ever had that one little hurdle, gets it out the way, and now you can't stop him. That's why he was always there. By the way, it's really hard to fail and choke in massive games a lot oftentimes. Because how the hell can you keep getting back there? You have to be amazing, potentially capable of winning to get to the point to choke. That's the craziest part of it all. The joke is Cloud9 fans should talk up FaZe Clan. Because if FaZe Clan's shit, then your major's not that impressive. You beat a Fnatic that who really cares at that point in time. You beat fucking SK that didn't have their proper lineup. And then you beat, according to you, just a shit team with a choker and Nico's tilted. Yeah, morons. You're supposed to say they were truly great. It was supposed to be their era. And we took the fucking major from them. People don't even know how to trash talk nowadays. You got to know, you got to build them up to trash talk them afterwards, dum-dums. Think that one through. Americans, of course, you've got fucking forever to wait till you win another major, so I wouldn't worry about it. You can start working on that material now. Now, I think the coolest thing is this. that this final was nothing like the Boston Major final, and it started with Inferno, and it looked like it was going to be like the Boston Major, but individually and calling-wise, first of all, the first part of the game was great, and then the way he individually played and then called those last rounds in OT, oh my goodness. This was a man who was possessed with an idea of greatness. This was someone who knew he wasn't going to let anyone get that trophy except him. It doesn't matter that the GOAT's over there. You know what? The GOAT can fucking wait for his second one. It's my turn now. And that's the way he played. He played better than Simple in this series. I'm serious. Go watch. He was a better rifler. And what the fuck did Simple even do with the AWP? So I thought this was incredible by Karrigan overall. Then we go to Twists. You know, I've always been someone who enjoyed his game, an admirer, someone I've tried to reach out to and work with. Obviously, I did that Reflections interview with him. It was about winning the major. Remember, he's won Cologne, he's won Katowice, he's won the Grand Slam. It was about winning the major now. It was about getting an amazing career. He's essentially done the career Grand Slam, right? This guy's aim is bonkers. We all know that. But that doesn't always mean he's the best and most well-rounded player. The way he's managed to fit in this team, what he's willing to do for this team, how he wins clutches sometimes, and how key he can be in late round holds. Like, basically, if he's alive in a 2v4 or a 1v3, and they're not in scenarios where, like, it's impossible to kill them because, like, the three of them just coming from like that. As long as they peek out, even if they double peek out, I think he's going to headshot both 1-1 and then go on the third guy and kill him. That's how sick he is. When they have to do deagle rounds, I'm just looking at him. Are you going to get a couple of these? Great. Him and Rops can just turn this tour around. Even though they're not playing like the Nico of last year and Simple of last year. They don't need to. They're just very good, and then they've got the team to do it. Brokey, look, he's not the guy from IM Katowice, because spoiler, he was never going to be that ridiculous overperformance. But I think he's a pretty consistent player, doesn't seem to give up ever, and is not a great AWP, as in a true AWP, is like a long range, it was like control one position. This guy's the guy who plays up close, who moves, and his mid and really close range AWPing, it's just so good. He's really got that particular range down. It's just like, it's so smooth, he's never overshooting, his flicks are really nice. That's when I like to watch him play. He's a mid-round sort of get the 2 kills that really break the game open for you, or close the round for you. Then you got Rops. In theory, he's supposed to be the best player. He's supposed to be the star player. He obviously played with Karrigan and Mouse. Now's his time to do it all right. Like, my joke before was, Karrigan and Nico were supposed to be Kobe and Shaq, except in this case they didn't win anything. And then they could split up, spoiler, partially, because Karrigan, you know, had his issues, and then Nico didn't really fuck with that. Not saying he directly kicked him. Just, that was an ambience. I heard things behind the scenes. But what's cool is that, like I said, they broke up, and it's like Karrigan went and got himself a mini Nico, and now he's won the major with him. Nico hasn't won a major, and Nico hasn't found himself a Karrigan. He's trying to maybe with Lexi B, but I'm hearing some crazy shit behind the scenes with that, so who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with that one? Oh, what do you know? I wonder what the one thread between all these IGLs. Come on, bro, come on. Do you only like them when they're washed and they're not good anymore? I mean, you can have them all day long if you want. Have the fuckers from 2019 if you want to play with them. I'm sick of it, mate. You're a sick player, but I'm just sick of that bullshit, that fucking nonsense. Rops, though, he is in theory the best player on this team, the most well-rounded. He's got very good skills, super impact player, clutch. His deagle's mental. His AK is going to fire those 2 headshots and do a sick peak when you need to. That's why I say he kind of is like the new Nico. Not quite as good yet. He can even AWP. I mean, they're both not primary AWPers, but he can even AWP a bit. Now, FaZe as a team, though, oh boy, did I love this. Because their pistols in the final, really well done. Really well played. The pacing, the way they let people like Range take their duels. They weren't just trying to rush them. They were taking the 1v1 duels. The aggro T-sides of front running was beautiful to watch. Then there was holding off comebacks. Then there was doing monster comebacks. Then there was winning the close games. Then there was winning when you have no money. And there was winning when this is a must-win round. They were clutch as fuck. All 5 of these players are clutch. Karrigan wins way too many IGL fucking 1vx's. Brokey wins them with his AWP. Twist is so good with his aim. Rops is just an all-round beast. And then who's Rain obviously is a famous fucking player. I mean, you know what, the way he owned me on Twitter there, it was like I was Virtus Pro on Train and he was fucking King Win Rain, wasn't he? The way he was just styling on my bitch ass. So anyway, I think the thing I love about this team is because they're so different to the Boston Major team and that team that didn't win the era because they kept losing all the close games to underdogs. These guys thrive on a close game. If you make this game close, they get into it. It fires them up. They all start just trying to be the hero. It's fucking amazing. And this is the thing. They're becoming one of my favourite lineups ever to watch in CSGO. That list isn't very long, by the way. It's some of the greatest teams ever. It's Fnatic 2015 who could do anything and cycle the MVP. It was Astralis 2018, probably the greatest tactical unit ever to play. It was Very Games 2013, one of the best well-rounded complete teams ever that should have won the major. Virtus Pro 2015, just my favourite era when they were going back and forth to TSM and Envious and fucking Fnatic and they were beating the best teams in the world and getting off MIP. Obviously a classic team. Team Liquid 2019, I thought until the other than Harvey team, probably the most firepower ever. Crazy, didn't even need to use utility to smash your head off, just shoot your face in with a deagle. Harvey last year obviously was bonkers. Like I say, that was like the fucking Neymar, Suarez, Messi, Barcelona one. It was ridiculous. But I actually think of all these teams, the one they remind me of the most is Fnatic 2015. Because they just do Fnatic things, as it were. Like they get in a tough spots. You know one of the big 3 or 4 is going to get something done. You know that everyone can sort of, like Karrigan can make his mid-round calls. You know they're going to be too clutch and the support player is going to be a bit OP. You know they've got an aggressive, sick aim rifler. You know they've got an AWP who's not really like a traditional AWP. It's more about movement and getting people, catching them off guard and then hitting the mid. Are you see what I'm saying here? Like, man alive. This is one of the coolest teams ever and I think they could beat anyone. That's why I picked them against Na'Vi and Simple. I told you I don't pick against Simple. I did in this one because this team is better than Simple as a player. He's just one player. He's the greatest. He's the great one. But I tell you what, this team is better. They can also absorb firepower. You can have monster firepower and throw it out and throw it out and throw it out and throw it out. Somehow it doesn't faze them. Obviously, no pun intended. When they rush in, like the way they rush when it's against monster CT defenses, it's like they don't know their nameplate. It's like, who are you facing? And as a result, it works. And they catch these guys off guard. It's fucking amazing. It really is. And then I think to myself this, they don't even need that much firepower. They need some. They've got the good players. But they've got these 4 MVPs now. Look, I don't think Main's going to do it in future events. We'll see on that one. I think they've got 3 MVPs and they can cycle them. That's giving me like Gambit 2021 vibes, especially the cohesion, obviously online. Now, the map pool of FaZe is also why I was so confident they would win this map, the series, and they can win all the series, and they can always put themselves in a favourable position. Because here's the thing, the veto flex today, I have always loved the way Karrigan vetoes. And because he picked that game of Vertigo against Ents and won it, he not only could flex it, but you were never going to pick it into him. And if you flexed it, I think he genuinely, look, it's the major finals, so it's hard to say you would, but I think he might have actually picked it. I think he might have said, fuck you. And if he'd done that, by the way, that would be beyond gangster. I think he'll do it in the future. You'll have to wait and see. The picks were on point. He has the best Inferno in the world, in my opinion. It suits his style completely and his players. They're very strong on Nuke. I think they're the best Nuke team now. I'll just say it. They were good before. Listen, they can basically play the rest of the maps. It's just on the level of the players. That's how good FaZe is as a team. It's like the old Strauss 28. It's not about they're strong on this map. It's that they're so strong as a team. They can play on that map and win against anyone. So minus Vertigo, which you haven't seen enough of, they can just win all the rest. You can try and punish pick does too and overpass. Yeah, good luck on that. You can try and punish pick Ancient. Good luck on that. Look, if you pick Mirage and Dust 2 into them, they can beat you on that as well. That's why they can 2-0 teams. And by the way, when you can 2-0 teams, and when you win all the clutch rounds, and when you have a nice distribution of players, and we take turns to stand up, and you got a great in-game leader, you got all this stuff coming for you. Robban's coming back as the coach. That's the kind of team that wins eras. That's the kind of team that goes for best team ever. So I'm really excited to see what's going on. By the way, he's even picked Overpass himself, hasn't he? I actually thought as well, if you want an iconic round that I'm always going to remember about Karrigan, it's not some of the end of the Inferno game, which is a truly great Majors final game, is going to be there for sure. But I think it's going to be that round on Nuke, where they called the rush with a low buy, and when then Mach 10, he runs straight as fast as you can, straight out the hut door, and I think it was Simple, drops down into a smoke and he kills him in the smoke, and that opens the site, and they get that, and it's a huge, huge round. I think it was Brokey wins the round at the end. That's Karrigan now. You could talk all the shit about the guy it was before, guess what? He had to be that person to become the guy he is now. And now, like Glaive, like Simple, he is going to stack trophies. And I can't wait to see if he can win another major with FaZe Clan. This video was kindly supported by Ahmed Hadjou, Matt Pugnatio, Rajcula, Kyle R, Pacy, Travis Goff, ochs, Animosity, BotPounder420, Hades, Jensen Goh, Joseph Ginsburg, Kovacevicd, Tobias Bernasconi, Thooorin, Zoomba, Zyrathenia, and a special thanks always goes out to Jerky's Minion. Would you like to find out who upcoming guests are going to be? Maybe even suggest them on the topic for my content. Maybe you want to appear in one of those lengthy esports discussions with me, or ask me a question for my video AMA. Well, if these perks, or indeed any of the others available, intrigue you, then join the Screw Illuminati today. Put the money where your mouth is. Where? In the description box below and the Patreon link.